We are getting new reaction to Hunter Biden's shocking plea with the Department of Justice. He's now agreeing to plead guilty on 3 federal charges, 2 misdemeanor counts of failing to pay income tax and a separate gun charge relating to the unlawful possession of a firearm. But the DOJ notes that the investigation is ongoing. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno, here with my co-hosts Kayleigh McEnany and Harris Faulkner. And also joining us today, Fox News contributor and former State Department spokesperson Marie Harf, and former Georgia congressman and host of the Doug Collins podcast, Doug Collins. Now, the president's son has been under investigation for 5 years for tax and financial allegations and a firearms charge that stemmed from allegations that Hunter lied during a gun purchase, claiming he did not abuse drugs. But that contradicted admissions in his own autobiography, where he detailed an addiction to crack cocaine. This plea deal will likely allow him to avoid any jail time. His lawyer releasing this statement: with the announcement of 2 agreements between my client, Hunter Biden, and the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Delaware, it is my understanding that the 5-year investigation into Hunter is resolved. Hunter will take responsibility for 2 instances of misdemeanor failure to file tax payments when due pursuant to a plea agreement. A firearm charge, which will be subject to a pretrial diversion agreement and will not be the subject of the plea agreement, will also be filed by the government. I know Hunter believes it is important to take responsibility for these mistakes he made during a period of turmoil and addiction in his life. He looks forward to continuing his recovery and moving forward. But while Hunter is admitting guilt to those crimes, that's not what President Biden has been saying.
Mr. Vice President, your son, Hunter, is on the Republicans' wish list for the impeachment hearing. Did Hunter Biden commit a crime? Have you spoken to your son, Mr. President-elect?
My son.
Congressman, it's sort of hard to believe that the president, as he stated multiple times, had no knowledge of or no participation, given that this was a 5-year investigation, now with this conclusion of pleading guilty. What say you as a former sitting congressman and as an attorney?
It's very frustrating to see this. And it's a 5 years. It predates the Biden administration. And this is known. And I think that's been the problem. The non-admittance that something's going on here. And then you come up with 2 misdemeanor charges, basically a gun charge. It just doesn't make sense. And when people are out there looking at this, they don't understand, number one, a 5-year investigation. Number 2, members of Congress don't understand all the evidence that they've seen through the laptop, through everything else, and through their own admissions. And then they come back and they say, this is what happens when they see other issues that have been born. What concerns me is his attorney actually says, we put the 5-year investigation to rest. The statement from the Department of Justice is ongoing. Okay, which is true here? Is this a completion of this? But what about all the other sources of income? This gives me more questions than answers. Where did the money come from? What was it used for? This was an admitted drug addict who had a lot of problems, and he's making millions of dollars. Where does this? There's just so many questions here that are left unanswered. I think it'll leave the American people and other members of Congress very frustrated.
Harris, you covered this extensively last hour. What are your takeaways?
Well, Leo Terrell, former civil rights attorney, said something that really, I think, was ground-shaking, and it goes to your point. The DOJ leaving in, our reporter even said this, on purpose, the line about their investigation continues. And why would that be? Well, Leo Terrell says it's to stonewall anybody looking into the rest of Hunter Biden's charges or allegations. And so they can say, no, you can't touch anything that we have because we're still investigating. Even though the case is closed, they can say they're still sort of looking at things. And what would they be looking at? Well, somebody's got to compare whatever they have at the DOJ, or hope that they would look into the 17 recordings that are mentioned in that 1023 at the FBI. And if and when those surface, an unredacted form in that 1023 that tells us so much more, too. If the DOJ is protecting evidence in the case, if you will, by saying that it's continuing its investigation, you can't really get them to move off of that. And that to me is not justice.
Well, One more quick thing. What you also brought out there is these suspicious activity reports with these large amounts of money, and whether the DOJ investigated or not. This is still out there. If that is okay, if not, where are the tax reforms on this? Where are the tax returns on this? Where is the evasion? If there is evasion, why is that part of this? Are we just wiping that slate clean? Again, this just leads to so many questions. And frankly, at the end of the day, it's not helpful for the Bidens and it's not helpful for the country because there's just all these questions out there that are not left. And everybody will say it's good to be a Biden with this DOJ investigation.
Marie, question for you on everything that my colleagues here are saying. Do you feel that the general sentiment on the left is that this is a troubled young man who has now pled guilty to charges stemming from a dark chapter in his life, and therefore he will continue to move on and rehabilitate? Or do you feel that those questions that the congressman elucidated and that Harris talked about regarding evidence, regarding sort of a mountain of concepts that we have yet to see formal legal action on, do people on the left, do you feel, ask those same questions, or do you feel they will be satisfied now with a level of accountability?
Well, I think a few things, Emily. First, DOJ looked at every aspect of his life over a 15-year period, much greater than just the question of tax returns, the gun charge. They looked at everything. This is what they believed they could actually make a case on in court and get a plea deal on. I think the Democrats believe that Hunter Biden is a very troubled person. He has had a difficult life, particularly after the death of his brother, Beau. He is now sober. You know, his oldest daughter just got married at the White House. The Bidens put out a really thoughtful statement. They've talked so thoughtfully about their son struggling with addiction. And Democrats will also tell you he should be subjected to the laws, just like everyone else. So I think one of the challenges, and you know, you were obviously in Congress, you know what goes on there. A lot of Republicans in Congress are making a lot of insinuations about things they believe tie Hunter's behavior to Joe Biden, things they believe Hunter Biden did that could have hurt Joe Biden in some way. But so far, there's been no evidence to tie them together and to make real these sort of really outlandish accusations that Republicans in Congress are making. And I think Republicans are politically trying to make this an argument, especially when the leading Republican candidate on the other side is facing legal troubles very seriously of his own. So I think going forward, Democrats will say Hunter Biden should be held accountable. He also doesn't have a government position. He doesn't work in the White House. He's not part of the administration in any way, shape, or form, and he will be held accountable, I think, after today's news.
Well, no one's been able to tell us who the big guy is. Maybe you have an answer, but the big guy was getting cut. And the big guy, by all accounts, was Joe Biden. We had people, Tony Bobolinsky, testifying to that end, who was a business partner. The bottom line here, Hunter Biden got a sweetheart deal. That's what this is. I talked to a former DOJ official, direct quote, "I would never have allowed a pretrial diversion for a crack user." You know what a diversion is? That's what he got on the gun charge on the felony. So there's that. Leave it to the liberal media to do their yapping about this. Listen to what they had to say.
Now we are seeing Hunter Biden take responsibility and plead guilty. Now, that's not going to stop Republicans, I venture to guess. I suspect we will have lots of howling from the GOP. They'll ignore the facts, as they have ignored the facts throughout this process. Certainly, this is a day of closure for the president's family.
The child of the president agrees to plead guilty to 2 crimes, historic in and of itself, though it may not satisfy some critics of the president and his son who've been looking for perhaps more blood here.
Trump Republicans have been trying to stir up conspiracy theories left and right. One after another have been disproven. They don't like the facts. They love conspiracy theories. Well, this is another one that didn't play out for them.
Why does this seem such a potent issue for Republicans?
Well, why does it seem like such a potent issue for Republicans? Because they have made it so. They have been focused like a laser.
House Republicans are going to keep this up. They've decided to go all in on this as a way to keep the Republican base enthusiastic.
So it's all the Republicans. James Comer, he's going to continue investigating. He's on with me at 8 p.m. this evening. I'll be interested to get his reaction, head of the Oversight Committee. But, you know, I would just say this. Politico made a really excellent point a few months ago that the Benghazi hearings, we heard that was just all noise. What happened after the Benghazi hearings? It stuck to Hillary Clinton. She lost an election. So be very cautious to just dismiss this to the wind as the conspiratorial Republicans. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I personally think that this is a very small fish designed to satiate the masses, but we see through it. And to your point, I think it raises far more questions that it has satisfied answers other than the question of what's the DOJ doing with our tax dollars? Well, I guess the answer is a little bit, but not enough. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.